you on? Do you want to call the roll?
Yes, I am. Okay, Chairperson McGraw is here. Supervisor Syed.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Okay, Matt Yeddle.
Is here.
Matt?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Ismail Alam.
I'm here.
Brian Backus. Stan Faminsky.
I'm here.
Alina Finnan. Paul Briggs.
Here.
Michelle Martinelli.
Here.
Laura Robertson.
I'm here, Kathy.
Thank you. Janet Wynn.
She's not
Ray,
here. No.
Okay. Ray Smith. Pete Rakvika. And Diane Percy. And did I miss anyone? Okay. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to make a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting. I have a second.
I'll
second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Yetto?
Okay. So water and sewer items. Just an update with the COVID response. We haven't changed anything internally other than this meeting, and the other public meetings are now virtual again. We're still going into homes. We're just doing the questionnaire and making sure everybody checks out prior to entering the homes. We're still looking for a junior engineer. I'm considering going back to the technician title as well to see what other candidates are out there. And there's been some discussion with Laura's office as well too, trying to work together and try to share some of the responsibilities. I don't know how that's gonna turn out, but it's just a discussion to have in the future. So Josh Hawley has taken a job elsewhere, and we did some interviewing to try to find a replacement. We do have a candidate that we like. I don't want to discuss the details too much because he still has not given his 2 weeks notice to his current employer. So I just to keep it from being an awkward situation. If we do have an executive session, I can discuss that further. Attorney's items, Paul?
Yes, I don't have the agenda in front of me, so you'll tell me what each item is, and I can respond, please.
Any update on the Whitmire Drive Myers extension?
No.
The next item is really for probably more for me. We have to do an RFP for engineers to do a design for the Pierce Road sewer extension. I think that's the next step, Paul.
Yes, and at the same time, I've got to submit that to the state comptroller's office for approval. So that I'm in the process of preparing the document package to send to the state.
Okay. Thank you. The next item
is that the standard process, Paul, to go to the comptroller's office? There's nothing extraordinary about this. It's not being audited in any way, is it?
No, it's standard. The comptroller's office always has to just determine whether they're mainly concerned about whether or not the cost of the project is reasonable as concerns the people that are part of the district. They're really looking for to make sure that it's not some large cost that's overly burdening the residents.
Understood. Thank you.
The next one is the City of Schenectady water bill. Any update on that and our contract with them?
No.
I know the mayor is very eager to get this resolved. He raises it on an ongoing basis with me. He raised it again last week as it related to something, maybe the pool closures or something. He made a comment about it. Is there any way we could, I think we need to regroup internally on this and then try to set up a subsequent meeting with them. I thought as we left it, perhaps they needed to get some information to Easement.
I haven't received anything yet from them.
Okay, you have the best relationship with them.
Yeah, so let me speak to that. I'm actually meeting with the Corporation Counsel's office on a private matter on Tuesday, so I'll talk to him about that. And when I say a private matter, a private client, obviously with the town of the city. But so the city attorney and I will be conferencing that, and I'll raise this with them, because how it was left is they were going to give us some information concerning their belief that the past amounts due are justified, and he hasn't given that to me yet.
Okay. I don't know how we let this go on for much longer as we're going into a budget cycle. If the amount of money we owe them is still in dispute, is that going to get resolved in the middle of the year? Is there going to be a new rate? Should we be negotiating a new rate? I mean, I think these are all things that we've kind of have come to a head now, right? We need to get resolution to at least some pieces of this as we're going into the budget.
Okay. I'll address all those issues with him on Tuesday.
Great. Thank you.
So that we can schedule a meeting, because that's what we need to do. We need to meet with the city.
Thank you. The next item is the Ingersoll home and the issues they had with the paper products they were flushing. They have since installed their grinder pump. It's been in service for about a month and a half at this point, and knock on wood, we've had no issues at our downstream pump station any longer. So I think that's fixing the issue. Do we want to send them something to close this out, Paul? Or is it just good enough that they did the...
No, we don't need to send them anything. They've completed the project to our satisfaction.
Okay.
Not until there's a problem do we need to address it again.
Okay, so I'll pull that off. It's an item that's been on there a while, so it's good. The country club area easements, Paul?
So that project can move forward. I've only got a few left that I've been trying to knock on doors, and they're not home, but I'll get back to them. So when by the time that you're ready to move forward with that project, and I've alerted, as I talk to the people in the country club area, when I meet with them, I've advised them it's going to happen sometime this fall, and here we are. So so you can move that forward, and by the time that's done, I'll be sure I have all the necessary easements assigned, and everyone that I've talked to has been fully cooperative. It's not a big burden on any of the property owners. It's just going to be some of the contractors' employees having to just access through the yard. They're not going to be driving any equipment through their yards. It's just going to be foot traffic and maybe bringing in some hand tools. So everybody so far has been more than cooperative about signing the easements, the temporary construction easements.
I want to thank you, Paul and Matt. I mean, I know this is a very important project for the town. I mean, this is what goes on over there in Country Club. It affects a lot of other places, and so in terms of through traffic, and just so many things, and plus there's just a lot of residents who live over there. So thank you both. I know this has been a lot of effort, and anytime you have to go resident by resident, it certainly is very time consuming. So thank you both very much. And I think the care and consideration that's been put into this project by Matt, the engineers, everybody else, to try to do as little disruption to everyday life and to property, and probably is actually a true property enhancement now. Thank you very much, Matt. That's been great work. And thank you, Paul, for doing all of the back and forth with the residents.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. This has been a very long-awaited project, so I'm glad we're finally getting to it. So thank you. The only question I have is, does it require a resolution to accept the easements?
Yes, right?
Yes.
So I'll have that on the agenda, and hopefully we'll have all the
Yes.
information.
What is your timing, Matt? When do you think they're going to be working over there?
They were calling last month, and then they stopped calling. So I assume they're probably on another job. So it has to be done this calendar year, and you really don't want to do it when it turns cold. So I'm thinking if we get everything signed by the end of this month, they could schedule and come up and do it in October, November.
Good. Okay. That's what I've been telling the residents.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any update on the dish network at the tower?
So Matt and I met with the dish network people, and we talked to them. The easy part is for the town to agree on letting Dish put some equipment on our water tower. We just still need to figure out, and I've got to work with Easements' office about what would be a reasonable charge. But more importantly, the Dish network gentleman is also in the tower business, and we were able to let him examine the site, because the biggest issue is if he's going to place a tower. So the process is he'll build a tower. This company will build a tower at their expense, and of course, then they want to share in some of the rental fees for use of the tower. And that where the water tower is, he needs to find a spot so that he can put up the equipment and put the tower in a place where the water tower isn't blocking the signal, because it's not that big an area over there. So he thinks he's found a couple places, and he's working on that. And we're not necessarily tied to that person. This is something we would obviously send out for quotes for companies to build a tower for us and see what their proposal is. But it goes a long ways towards, if we can further that, it'll go a long ways towards getting all of when you go over there, there's a lot of equipment on that water tower, and as Matt has pointed out over the years, for us to do any maintenance on that tower, such as painting and removing what's there now as far as old paint, the equipment's in the way, and it's a lot of equipment. I mean, you'd be surprised how many wires and towers are attached to our water towers that went over there. So it sounds like a good idea to try to build a tower, and if we can find somebody to do it at their cost, I think that's a good idea. And so we're still waiting for him to give us some initial idea. Matt recently provided him with a survey map of that area, which shows the locations of the present tower. There's actually three water towers there and a couple outbuildings. So it was a good site visit, and I'll check back with him. But as far as going back then again to Dish Network, we should have a resolution on for this month so that we can approve a contract with Dish Network for placement of their equipment.
Thank you. And the last item I had was from last month. I didn't get to it. Changes to the plumbing code that would allow qualified contractors that aren't necessarily plumbers to do some exterior plumbing work. I'm going to try to keep it going and get it on the language to you, Paul and Elena, this month. If not, I'll just have to push it to next month. It's been a little bit busy around here, but I didn't want to leave it off and forget about it.
Okay.
That's all for the attorney's items.
Oh, could I add one? Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that if we can do it, we have a fence easement request for 26 Laura Lane. Fence agreement.
Okay.
So is Josh still with us, Matt?
No.
No. Okay.
So I'll get the information to you.
So Laura, rather than Laura sending it to Matt, Laura, would you just send me the fence application and I'll take care of it?
Yeah. We have a fence agreement in place for 28, I think, Laura Lane. So I would assume that it would be okay to put a fence there, but Matt, do you just want to make sure or check with Ray that it doesn't interfere? We have an adjacent fence agreement, and we have a shed agreement for both this property and an adjacent property to have a shed in the easement. But I would just want somebody to make sure that I'll send you the info, copy Matt, and he can just once over it.
That's good.
Okay. Yeah. And we can do that for this month.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Water and sewer maintenance. We still have one empty maintenance worker position. We re-advertised recently, and we do have we had several applicants. We had one good interview that we were very happy with the candidate. So I'd like to move forward with hiring this person as a maintenance worker. He does not have a CDL license, so he could not be a water and sewer maintenance worker to start. But if we hire him, then we would be, for the most part, fully staffed at the water and sewer crew. So I'll have his information prior to the agenda meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Can everybody else put us on mute?
Paul, do you want to mute him?
Paul Briggs,
Yes.
put us on mute. Thank you. Thank you.
I think he hung up.
He was done with us anyway. All right. I'm putting myself on mute. Keep going, Matt.
So B and C, I briefly spoke to Ismat about these two, and she suggested we do an executive session to further discuss this. So I'll move to do an executive session at the end of the meeting to discuss these two items. D is just an update for the August water and sewer related road cuts. We had 3. Sort of a slow time of year, so thankfully we don't have too many needs for open cutting the road and having to do any major repairs. E, we had a portable sewage pump that was brought to the dealer for maintenance, for repair, and it came in slightly higher than we expected. And it's the one that we use when we have an emergency or a problem at our pump station. So we gave them the go ahead and fix it anyway. I think that the final cost came in around $5,200, I think, for the repair. I'll have all that information for finance. Wastewater treatment plant, an update on the high strength waste program. I know ESG we've signed the contract with ESG, and we're working out the details now. I think there's an upcoming meeting as well. DEC, the approval. I've sent a request to Barton LaJudas to finish their response letter to DEC. Been pushing them along, and hopefully they'll get it to the state this week. There's not a lot that needs to be resolved, so I don't know what the holdup is. If I don't get positive results by the end of this week, it would be tomorrow. I might have to make some further calls to Barton LaJudas. We've interviewed several wastewater treatment plant operators to replace the opening that we have at the plant, and we have a very good candidate. Peter's trying to update. Okay. So I'd like to offer him the position. It does require a civil service exemption because of residency requirements. So pending the outcome of the September meeting with civil service, we should be able to go forward with him. And we also have a trainee at the wastewater treatment plant that we are very happy with. We've interviewed, and he does not require any exceptions from civil service. In fact, he's on the current list. So I'd like to bring him on as soon as we get the board approval for him. And that being said, for the first time in I don't know how many years, we would be fully staffed at the sewer plant. It's been a very long process. It's very hard to find qualified individuals, but we were very lucky to get these two candidates. And I know Keith, is the chief plant operator, is very excited. With only two operators right now, they've been doing their best and they've been doing a great job keeping the plant in compliance, but it's no way to run the plant and to stress out the staff, and to have a fully staffed will be very, very, very beneficial for the operation. And then also even as we move forward with the high strength waste, is even better for that situation as well. We need to purchase a new effluent sampler. It's just a fancy way of constantly sampling the water as it leaves the plant. It's a bit above my pay or my purchasing policy level. It's $6,950. We'll take the existing one that we have there now and move it to another location in the plant and take the oldest one out of the rotation. I sent an email around to the board. It was last week. The UV disinfection system at the plant is having issues with the hydraulic system that operates it. We've been able to manually operate the system, but we had to get the company that installed it back to do the repairs. And in order to get them in, we had to get emergency approval to. Right now, it looks around $10,000 for the repair. That also includes, though, replacement of some of the bulbs that are there, and they would have been done anyway. So we're taking advantage of that at the same time. When I have the final costs, I'll present it to the board, and you should have it by finance. Water treatment plant. Beginning this year, DOH has required new sampling and testing for PFOA in our water supply. It requires testing every one of our 7 wells quarterly, and it ends up costing us an additional $5,200 a quarter. So I've already included it in next year's budget, but for the last quarter, and then we sampled yesterday for this quarter. We had to do some budget modifications, and that it was one of the questions that came up at the budget meeting yesterday or the other day, and this may have been one of the budget mods that were required. It's out of our control completely, so it's required, so we have to do it. So far, the well redevelopment project is going well. We have 1 well that was completed yesterday. It looks like they've increased the capacity by 100 gallons a minute, and which is great. They're moving on to the next one, and then they'll just keep going through one by one, so that we are at any time without the majority of our wells. We can use the other 6 while they're redeveloping each one. We were able to use staff internally to dig and install conduit to provide high-speed internet to the site. This is saving a ton of money. I think Seth was able to. He has more of the details, but I think we're even getting the cabling installed for free. Is that correct, Seth?
That is correct. Initially, the budget or the request from Spectrum was $48,000 to do the project. They were going to take $8,000 off because that was the combined build budget between the wastewater treatment plant and the rec center, and the water treatment plant being signed up as new accounts as I switched them over from Magna 5 to save us some money. So they were able to combine that build budget. They provided us with the conduit, so we didn't have to buy the conduit. We had to buy some pole boxes, plant 2 poles, and dig the trench to bury the conduit. So the cost to the town, according to Josh Walter, when I talked to him the other day, was something like $4,000. So instead of paying $48,000, we paid $4,000, and they're going to run the wire. And like I said, they did provide the conduit to get buried. So all in all, I'd call that a win because it's so far down there that it was going to cost us like 50 grand to put internet in. So, and that'll also cut down on the cost of the phone lines down there because Spectrum will be providing not only the internet, but the phones. So we can get rid of the terrible phone lines we have down there. So,
thank you very much for that, Seth. Utility billing. Chris is finishing up on the 2021 fall residential commercial warrant. We'll have final numbers by the finance committee. We'll need a reso for that. The transfer station recycling center. We have a new attendant down there. She's working out very well. I still want to have one additional person. We're still looking around to try to get somebody to have as a backup and possibly work with her on certain days when it's busy. So if you know anybody who's interested, they can apply through the town webpage. The recycling event, we're getting ready for the paper shredding and TV recycling event it's going to be at the transfer station this year. I was talking to the crews this morning. We're going to make sure that some of the updates and new fencing should be installed by that point as well. But we are looking for volunteers. In the past, I know Tom Canizzo was always someone we could always count on. I'll be there as long as my son doesn't have a baseball game. If anyone's interested, there's a sign-up sheet that's being passed around, or it's hung up in a couple places in town hall. Next item section is just finance and board action. Majority of these are just carried from up above. However, I will need finance committee approval for that sampler that I mentioned earlier, and finance committee approval for the repairs to the sewage, the portable sewage pump. Everything else would just be standard resolution. So I have just on the calendar the next meeting, October 7th. Does that sound good, Denise?
Yeah, that's great, Matt.
Go back to 8:30.
Yes, please. Okay.
That's all I have, except for a quick executive session just to discuss a couple personnel things. So I guess it would just be myself, Denise, supervisor, and Ismat.
Okay. The supervisor, were you going to make a motion?
I can make a motion. So I will make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 105, subsection F. We are going to be discussing matters pertaining to the employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person, as well as the medical history of a particular person. Do I have a second on that motion?
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? At the conclusion of executive session, we will take up no further business and we will be adjourned for the afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Hold on one second. I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay, great.